Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss these captivating life stories. Today, we're diving into a story about betrayal, realization, and second chances. A ride that'll leave you wondering how things will turn out. So, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Our story begins in a cozy suburban neighborhood in Atlanta, where life for the most part is quiet and predictable. Here, we meet our main character, Ben. Ben is in his early 40s, a hardworking guy who's always put his family above everything else. He's got a stable job as a project manager, a job he's worked his way up in over many long years, and he's the type of guy who believes in earning everything through dedication and loyalty. Ben has been married to his wife, Sarah, for almost 15 years. They met in college, fell in love, and never looked back. Sarah's a warm, spirited woman with a love for art and creativity. She's always had the spark about her that drew people in, a kind of charisma that made Ben fall head over heels. For years, they built their life together, raising two kids, Jack, who's 13 and into soccer and video games, and Mia, who's 9 and has a passion for painting, just like her mom. They're the picture-perfect family, or so it seems. Life for Ben has always been pretty straightforward. He goes to work, comes home, spends time with the kids, and shares his evenings with Sarah. Sure, like any marriage, there have been ups and downs, but nothing that seemed out of the ordinary. And even though things have become routine over the years, Ben never questioned their love or commitment. But recently, things with Sarah have felt different. She's been distant, distracted even. Ben's noticed that she's on her phone a lot more, smiling at messages she doesn't share. And sometimes, she even heads out for errands that seem to take longer than they used to. First, Ben brushed it off. Everyone's busy, right? She's just caught up in the chaos of daily life. But the little things start to add up. One evening, Ben comes home from work and finds Sarah in the backyard, pacing and speaking softly into her phone. She doesn't notice him, but he can see her smiling, laughing in a way he hasn't seen in a while. A small twinge of worry settles in his chest. He tells himself he's just overthinking it. Maybe she's catching up with an old friend, but something in his gut tells him otherwise. A few days later, as they're sitting down for dinner, Sarah seems completely lost in thought. She barely notices when Mia spills her drink or when Jack talks about his soccer game. Ben watches her, feeling the distance grow even in the comfort of their home. He finally decides to ask her if everything's okay. Sarah quickly snaps out of it, smiles, and reassures him, saying she's just been stressed with a few things. But it doesn't really add up. Then, things take another strange turn. One Saturday morning, Ben finds a receipt in Sarah's bag while looking for the keys. It's from a fancy restaurant downtown, dated from a night when she said she was going out with her friends. But something doesn't sit right. This isn't the kind of place Sarah and her friends would usually go to. They're more into casual spots, where they can catch up without the fuss. Ben's mind starts racing with possibilities, and he can't shake the uneasy feeling that something's wrong. He tries to ignore it, telling himself that he's being paranoid. But the nagging feeling only grows stronger. He feels guilty for even thinking about it, but there's a part of him that needs to know. Over the next few days, Ben notices more small, troubling things. Sarah's taking more time to run errands, and he catches her smiling at her phone more often. At this point, his doubts are starting to weigh on him heavily, and he knows he has to get to the bottom of it. But he's torn. This is his wife, the woman he's shared his life with. Is he really prepared for what he might find? Then one evening, while Sarah is in the shower, her phone lights up on the nightstand. Ben glances at it, and there's a message from a number he doesn't recognize, saying, "Last night was incredible. Can't wait to see you again." His heart sinks, and he feels a wave of nausea wash over him. This is more than just paranoia, this is real. In that moment, Ben doesn't know what to do. His mind is flooded with anger, sadness, and confusion. How could Sarah do this to him, to their family? He's always trusted her, and now he's left questioning everything they've built together. Ben feels paralyzed, staring at the message on Sarah's phone, his mind reeling. This isn't just his imagination or a passing worry. This is proof. But instead of confronting her right then, he puts the phone back, takes a deep breath, and steps outside. He knows he needs a plan. Over the next few days, Ben tries to keep his cool, going about his daily routines and acting like everything's fine. He finds himself studying Sarah's every move, catching every smile she gives her phone, every mysterious outing. Each moment feels like a betrayal, but instead of exploding in anger, he starts gathering more information, desperate for some kind of clarity. One evening, he reaches out to his friend, Mark, who's always been a reliable confidant. Over a beer, Ben lays it all out, his suspicions, the message, and how he's been feeling. Mark listens, concerned, and advises Ben to get solid evidence before taking any drastic steps. Mark reminds him how serious it is to accuse a partner of cheating, especially without full certainty. This advice, though hard to swallow, is exactly what Ben needed to hear. With Mark's encouragement, Ben decides to take a calculated approach. He installs a small tracker app on Sarah's phone. It's something he never imagined he'd do, and a part of him feels guilty. But he convinces himself that he has no other choice. His trust has already been shattered, and he's just trying to understand the truth. The next few days feel like a roller coaster. He monitors Sarah's location, and every time she heads somewhere unfamiliar, his heart sinks a little further. One day, he notices her visiting a hotel downtown, a location that becomes a regular stop for her. She's there for about an hour each time, and every visit tears him up inside. Ben's fears are confirmed, but he's still not sure how to confront her or what he'll say when he does. One evening, Sarah comes home unusually late, her hair slightly disheveled and her excuse vague. Ben watches her, feeling both hurt and furious, but he keeps his emotions under control. He knows the time to confront her is coming soon, but he wants to wait until he's ready, until he's fully prepared for whatever might come next. As the tension builds, Ben begins to reflect on their relationship. He remembers how they used to be so close, so in tune with each other. They were partners in every sense of the word, sharing dreams, making plans, and supporting each other through life's challenges. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. They became parents, got busy with work, and their connection slowly faded. The realization hits him hard. Maybe he, too, played a part in this. Yet, it's one thing to drift apart, and another to betray the vows they'd made to each other. Ben feels himself hardening against Sarah, but a small part of him wonders if there's any hope left for them. One night, after the kids have gone to bed, Ben decides he can't hold it in anymore. He asks Sarah to sit down, and in a calm but steady voice, he tells her he knows about the hotel visits. Sarah's face pales. She stammers, trying to come up with an explanation, but there's nowhere to hide. Ben presses her, asking her why she's been lying and sneaking around. Sarah finally breaks down, admitting that she's been meeting someone else. She tells him she never meant for it to go this far, that it started as a harmless fling but grew into something she couldn't control. Ben's heart sinks further as she confesses the truth. She apologizes, but the damage is done. Ben listens, his face unreadable, as Sarah tries to explain. She tells him that she felt lonely, that their marriage had become predictable, and that she craved excitement. She admits that she felt like she was just going through the motions with Ben. And though her words sting, Ben realizes that he's heard the story from other people before. It's that common excuse that people use to justify infidelity, that they felt trapped or needed to feel alive. Ben's anger flares up, but he manages to keep himself composed. He tells Sarah that her feelings don't justify what she did. She chose to betray him instead of working on their marriage or even having an honest conversation about how she felt. His calmness catches her off guard, and for the first time, she seems genuinely remorseful. But for Ben, it's too little, too late. He tells her that he's been gathering evidence and knows exactly how long this affair has been going on. The shame on Sarah's face is unmistakable. She knows she's crossed a line that may never be repaired. After a tense silence, Ben stands up and says he needs some time to think. He tells Sarah he'll sleep in the guest room for now and that they'll figure out how to explain things to the kids later. Sarah nods, barely able to look him in the eyes. Over the following weeks, Their home becomes a silent battleground. They talk only when necessary, and even then, their conversations are brief and tense. Ben feels like he's living in a stranger's house, constantly reminded of the betrayal. He finds himself questioning everything about his life, his marriage, his choices, and even his future. One evening, he realizes he can't keep living this way. The pain and anger have eaten away at him, and he knows he has to make a decision. Either they try to rebuild from this shattered state, or he walks away and starts fresh. He thinks about the kids, about the impact a separation would have on them, and the thought breaks his heart. But as he weighs his options, he also starts thinking about his own needs, his own happiness. He can't stay just for the kids if it means living in constant resentment. He deserves a life that doesn't feel like a prison sentence, a life where he can find peace and maybe even happiness again. Ben reaches out to Mark, who supports him through these difficult days. Mark tells him that he needs to do what's best for himself, that he can't sacrifice his own well-being just to keep up appearances. Slowly, Ben begins to accept that moving on might be the best choice, even if it's the hardest one. The final turning point comes one morning when Sarah approaches him, tears in her eyes. She tells him she's sorry for everything, that she knows she messed up, and that she's willing to do anything to fix it. But Ben, who's been reflecting on their relationship for weeks, feels nothing but emptiness. He tells her that he can't just move past it, that trust once broken is incredibly hard to rebuild. Ben tells Sarah that he needs to find himself again, that he's lost too much of who he is trying to keep their family together. He suggests that they take some time apart to figure things out. Sarah, though heartbroken, understands. She knows she's the reason for his pain, and for once, she doesn't try to argue. They sit together in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Both of them know this separation is the beginning of a new chapter, though neither knows where it will lead. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to like, share, and comment with your thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Stay tuned to see how Ben's journey unfolds. Will he find peace, or will he be haunted by this betrayal? Ben's decision to separate from Sarah is just the beginning of a long, emotional journey for both of them. After moving out, Ben throws himself into work and spends time reconnecting with friends he'd distanced himself from over the years. It's as if he's rediscovering parts of himself that he'd forgotten existed, finding solace in the things that once made him happy. Meanwhile, Sarah finds herself grappling with guilt and regret. Alone in the house that once felt so warm and full of love, she realizes how much she took for granted, the stability, the trust, and even the small, simple moments with Ben. Without him around, the silence is deafening, and she begins to see the full impact of her choices. She reaches out to him, sending him messages and asking to meet, but Ben keeps his distance. He isn't ready to open himself up to the pain all over again. One day, Ben receives an invitation to Jack's soccer game. Jack, their teenage son, is incredibly close to his dad, and he's struggling to understand what's happening between his parents. At the game, Ben sees Sarah sitting on the bleachers, looking smaller and more vulnerable than he's ever seen her. For a moment, he considers sitting next to her, but he decides against it and finds a seat farther away. The kids sense the distance between their parents, and it's clear they're hurting. As the weeks go by, Ben focuses on moving forward, yet memories of his life with Sarah linger. He starts to wonder if there's a way to rebuild, if perhaps he can find it in himself to forgive her. It's a struggle, a constant push and pull between the pain she caused and the love they once shared. His friends encourage him to let go, to start fresh, but he can't shake the feeling that walking away from his marriage might mean losing a part of himself forever. The breaking point comes when Jack, unable to handle the strain anymore, asks Ben if he and Sarah will ever be a family again. Seeing the hurt in his son's eyes, Ben realizes that his decision doesn't just affect him. It's impacting his children in ways he hadn't fully understood. The guilt weighs heavily on him, and he finds himself wondering if there's a chance, even a small one, to make things right. In a moment of vulnerability, Ben reaches out to Sarah, asking her to meet. They sit down over coffee, their first real conversation since the separation. Sarah, with tears in her eyes, apologizes once again, telling him she regrets everything and that she'd give anything to undo the past. Ben listens, conflicted. Part of him wants to forgive, to give their marriage one last shot. But another part of him holds onto the betrayal, unable to forget how much she hurt him. As they talk, Ben realizes that Sarah's remorse is genuine. She's not the same person who took him for granted, who thoughtlessly pursued excitement at the cost of their family. She's broken, humbled, and desperate to rebuild what they lost. But Ben knows that rebuilding won't be easy. It'll require trust, forgiveness, and a commitment he's not sure he's ready to give. Their conversation leaves them both emotional and uncertain. Ben returns home, reflecting on everything Sarah said. He begins to consider the possibility of trying therapy, of working through the pain instead of letting it consume him. The idea is daunting, but he realizes that he can't live the rest of his life in anger and resentment. After several days of soul-searching, Ben proposes the idea of couples counseling to Sarah. She agrees immediately, willing to do whatever it takes to earn back his trust. They start seeing a therapist together, navigating painful conversations about the affair, their marriage, and the disconnect that led them to this point. It's uncomfortable, raw, and at times almost unbearable. But through these sessions, they begin to uncover the underlying issues that contributed to the distance between them. Ben learns that Sarah's affair wasn't just about seeking excitement. It was a symptom of a larger problem. She confesses that she felt lonely and disconnected, that she missed the emotional closeness they once shared. She'd been afraid to talk to him about it, worried he wouldn't understand, and instead of reaching out, she made the worst choice imaginable. Hearing this doesn't make the betrayal any easier to bear, but it gives Ben some insight into the reasons behind her actions. He begins to see that their marriage wasn't as perfect as he thought, that they both had a part in the breakdown. This realization doesn't absolve Sarah's actions, but it helps him understand that they both have work to do if they want to move forward. As they continue therapy, Ben slowly starts to open up, expressing feelings he's kept buried for years. He talks about his own struggles, about how he felt neglected and unappreciated as he shouldered the responsibilities of work and family. For the first time in a long time, they're truly communicating, laying everything bare without fear or judgment. Through these sessions, Ben and Sarah begin to rediscover each other. It's a painful process, filled with highs and lows, but it brings them closer in a way they hadn't expected. The wounds are still fresh, but they start to see a glimmer of hope, a chance to rebuild something stronger than before. One evening, after a particularly emotional session, Ben and Sarah find themselves walking through the park, reminiscing about the early days of their relationship. They laugh about their first date, their wedding, and the adventures they shared before life became so complicated. In that moment, Ben feels a warmth he hasn't felt in a long time, a reminder of why he fell in love with her in the first place. Yet, even as they grow closer, the road ahead is far from easy. The trust between them is fragile, and one misstep could undo all the progress they've made. They're both aware of this, treading carefully as they rebuild their relationship piece by piece. As time passes, Ben finds himself opening up to the possibility of forgiveness. He knows it won't be simple, and that there will be days when the anger and pain resurface. But he also knows that holding on to bitterness won't bring him peace. He decides to take it one day at a time, focusing on the present instead of dwelling on the past. Their children, who have sensed the change in their parents, begin to feel hopeful as well. Jack, especially, is relieved to see his parents working things out, even if it's not perfect. For the first time in months, the tension in the house starts to ease, replaced by a tentative but genuine sense of healing. But just as they start to settle into this new normal, Ben receives an unexpected call. It's from Sarah's former affair partner, who claims he wants to clear the air. Ben's heart pounds as he listens to the man's voice, filled with smugness and arrogance. He tells Ben that he's wasting his time trying to fix things, that Sarah will never change, and that he's a fool for even considering reconciliation. This conversation stirs up all the old wounds. Ben is furious, humiliated, and filled with doubt. He confronts Sarah, demanding to know if she's still in contact with this man. Sarah, shocked and devastated, assures him that she hasn't spoken to him since the affair ended. She begs him to believe her, but Ben feels the fragile trust they've been building slipping through his fingers. Their relationship, which was slowly mending, suddenly feels shattered all over again. Ben pulls away, retreating into himself, and Sarah is left feeling helpless, unsure of how to repair the damage this time. In the days that follow, Ben contemplates ending things for good. He feels foolish for letting himself hope, for thinking they could move past the betrayal. He wonders if he'll ever be able to trust her again, or if he's doomed to live with the shadow of her actions hanging over him forever. At the same time, he knows that this decision will affect his entire family. The thought of his children growing up in a broken home breaks his heart, but he also knows that he can't sacrifice his own happiness just to keep the family together. As Ben grapples with these conflicting emotions, he decides to take a step back. He tells Sarah that he needs some space to figure out what he truly wants. It's a painful choice, but he knows that he can't move forward until he's certain. During this time apart, Ben reflects deeply on his marriage, on the love he and Sarah once shared, and on the man he wants to become. He realizes that he's at a crossroads, and that whatever decision he makes will shape his future. After weeks of soul-searching, Ben reaches a conclusion. He knows that forgiveness isn't about erasing the past. It's about choosing to let go of the hurt and move forward with a renewed sense of purpose. He decides that he's willing to give their marriage one last chance, but with the understanding that things will never be the same. When he shares his decision with Sarah, she breaks down in tears, overwhelmed by relief and gratitude. They both know that the road ahead will be challenging, but they're committed to making it work, one day at a time. Together, they start rebuilding their relationship, not as the people they once were, but as the people they've become, wiser, more resilient, and determined to create a future built on honesty and trust. As Ben and Sarah begin their journey toward reconciliation, the path proves far more challenging than either of them anticipated. Although they both want to move forward, their progress is slow, and the scars of the past continue to haunt them. The smallest disagreements feel like massive setbacks, and each argument seems to reopen old wounds. Ben tries to keep his cool, but frustration often gets the best of him, and Sarah, desperate to prove her sincerity, constantly worries that he'll walk away. One night, while discussing their future, Ben's frustration boils over. He demands to know why Sarah risked everything for a fling that, in his eyes, wasn't worth losing their family. Sarah tries to explain, revisiting the feelings of loneliness and neglect that led her down that path, but her explanations only leave Ben feeling angrier and more betrayed. He storms out of the house, needing space to process everything, and spends the night at a friend's place. For the first time, Sarah realizes that even though Ben agreed to try again, he's still not sure if he can truly forgive her. Days go by, and Ben's absence weighs heavily on Sarah. She spends hours reflecting on her actions, wondering if she'll ever truly be able to make amends. Meanwhile, Ben is also grappling with his feelings. Being away from Sarah gives him the chance to think about what he really wants. He loves his family and can't imagine life without them, but he's also deeply hurt. As he wrestles with these emotions, he begins to question if reconciliation is even possible. After several days apart, Ben decides it's time for a conversation with Sarah. Not about forgiveness, but about boundaries and trust. They sit down, and Ben lays out his expectations if they're to continue rebuilding their marriage. He tells her he needs complete transparency and honesty, without exception. He explains that if she ever hides anything from him again, it'll be over for good. Sarah agrees without hesitation, understanding that trust is fragile and must be handled with care. Things improve, but only slightly. Ben's mind is constantly filled with memories of Sarah's betrayal, and he finds it difficult to be vulnerable with her again. They go through the motions, attending therapy, communicating more openly, but it feels forced. The deep bond they once shared is missing, replaced by an invisible barrier that neither of them knows how to break. Then, a pivotal moment changes everything. One afternoon, Ben is at work when he receives an urgent call from Jack's school. There's been an accident on the soccer field, and Jack's hurt. In a panic, Ben rushes to the school, meeting Sarah in the waiting room of the nurse's office. They sit in silence, their worry for Jack momentarily outweighing the tension between them. When the nurse finally comes out to tell them that Jack's injury isn't severe, they both sigh in relief. For the first time in months, they feel united in their concern for their son. As they drive Jack home together, something shifts between Ben and Sarah. They realize that despite everything, they're still partners, still a team when it comes to their family. The experience rekindles a sense of unity they thought was lost. Over the next few days, they start spending more time together as a family, sharing moments that remind them of the life they built and what they stand to lose. In one particularly touching moment, they decide to go through old photo albums with their kids. As they flip through photos from their early days of marriage, vacations, and holidays, Ben and Sarah are both overwhelmed by nostalgia. They remember the happiness, the dreams they once shared, and the sacrifices they made for each other. The memories bring them closer, softening the tension and reminding them why they fell in love in the first place. But the story takes another twist. Just as things seem to be improving, Ben receives a message from Sarah's former affair partner. It's a smug, taunting message, suggesting that Sarah will come back to him eventually, and that Ben is just a temporary distraction. Enraged, Ben confronts Sarah, demanding to know if she's been in contact with the man. Sarah, horrified by the accusation, swears she hasn't spoken to him since they decided to work on their marriage. Ben is torn. Part of him wants to believe her, but the message reopens every painful wound. The next few days are tense, with Ben feeling betrayed all over again. Despite Sarah's reassurances, he can't shake the feeling of distrust. He wonders if trying to rebuild was a mistake, and even considers calling it quits. But just as he's about to give up, Sarah takes a bold step. She calls her former affair partner, confronting him directly, with Ben listening in on speakerphone. During the call, Sarah makes it clear that she wants nothing to do with him and that she's fully committed to rebuilding her marriage. She tells him that what they shared meant nothing and that contacting her family was crossing a line. The man laughs it off, but Sarah stands her ground, ending the call by blocking his number and promising Ben that she'll never speak to him again. Ben, though still hurt, feels a sense of relief, seeing Sarah's determination to protect their marriage. This confrontation is a turning point for both of them. Ben begins to feel a small spark of hope, realizing that Sarah truly is willing to do whatever it takes to regain his trust. And for Sarah, the experience serves as a final closure, a severing of ties with the person who nearly destroyed her family. She's finally able to see how much she risked, and she's more committed than ever to proving her loyalty to Ben. Slowly, cautiously, Ben and Sarah start rebuilding again, but this time with a renewed sense of purpose. They continue therapy, sharing more openly than before, and begin to let go of the pain piece by piece. The journey is far from easy, but each small step brings them closer to the love they once shared. Just as they're beginning to feel stable, they face one last hurdle. Jack, still struggling with the tension in their home, starts acting out at school. His teachers report behavioral issues, and he becomes distant, even resentful, toward both of his parents. Ben and Sarah realize that their issues have taken a toll on their children, and they feel a deep sense of guilt. Together, they sit down with Jack, opening up about the difficulties they've been through. They explain, in a way he can understand, that relationships are complicated and that sometimes people make mistakes. Jack listens, and for the first time, he sees his parents not just as authority figures, but as real people who struggle and hurt just like he does. The conversation is healing, not only for Jack but for the entire family. It's a moment of vulnerability that brings them closer and reinforces their commitment to healing together. In the days that follow, Ben and Sarah finally begin to feel a sense of peace. They're not fully healed, and there are still moments of doubt and hurt, but they're learning to trust each other again. They start planning family outings, rediscovering the joy of being together, and for the first time in a long time, they feel a glimmer of hope for the future. The journey has been long and painful, marked by betrayal, anger, and heartache. But through it all, Ben and Sarah have discovered a deeper strength within themselves, a resilience that allows them to face the hardest challenges together. They're no longer the same people they were before the affair, but in some ways they're stronger, wiser, and more connected than ever. If you're still here, thank you for watching this journey of love, loss, and redemption. Don't forget to like, share, and comment with your thoughts below. And, of course, subscribe for more stories just like this one. As Ben and Sarah move closer to a new beginning, the cracks in their progress begin to show. Though they've come a long way, every small setback seems to pull them back to square one. Their moments of peace are often interrupted by memories of the affair, leaving them questioning if they can truly move forward. One evening, after a long day at work, Ben finds himself alone at the kitchen table, scrolling through old photos of his family vacations and anniversary celebrations. The images of happier times stir a bittersweet feeling in him, filling him with both longing and resentment. When Sarah walks in, she notices the pain etched on his face and asks him if he's okay. But Ben, still feeling raw from the memories, just nods and says, "I'm fine." But he's not fine. Deep down, he's struggling, caught between a desire to forgive and a fear of being hurt again. The tension between them is palpable, an unspoken reminder of the fragile state of their marriage. Sarah can feel it too, sensing Ben's lingering doubts. She knows that despite all her efforts, she still hasn't fully regained his trust. Desperate to prove herself, she suggests they take a weekend away, just the two of them, to reconnect and focus on rebuilding their bond without any distractions. Ben hesitates, unsure if a getaway is the answer to their problems. But he realizes that maybe a change of scenery could help them both find some clarity. They pack their bags and head to a quiet cabin near the mountains, hoping that the solitude will give them the space they need to face their issues head-on. The cabin is secluded, surrounded by towering trees and a serene lake nearby. At first, things feel awkward, like they're both holding back, unsure of what to say or how to act around each other. They spend the first night in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. But on the second day, they decide to take a hike along a scenic trail, hoping that the fresh air and open space will help them clear their minds. As they walk, they start talking about everything: how they've been feeling, the struggles they've faced, and the hope they're trying to hold on to. For the first time, Ben opens up about the depth of his pain, telling Sarah that every time he looks at her, he sees both the woman he loves and the one who betrayed him. Sarah listens, her eyes welling up with tears, but she doesn't interrupt. She lets him speak, acknowledging his feelings and apologizing without making excuses. In that vulnerable moment, Ben realizes that Sarah truly regrets her actions. Her remorse feels genuine, and he senses that she's willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. They reach the top of the trail, standing together with a breathtaking view of the valley below. Ben feels a sense of calm, like a weight has been lifted, even if only for a moment. He reaches for Sarah's hand, and they stand together, silently promising each other to keep fighting for their relationship. But as they make their way back to the cabin, they encounter an unexpected visitor, a familiar face from the past. Sarah's former affair partner has followed them, having somehow found out where they were staying. Ben feels his heart race as he locks eyes with the man who nearly destroyed his family. The encounter is tense, with both men sizing each other up, each aware of the fragile ground they're standing on. The man, smirking, taunts Ben, saying that Sarah will always come back to him, and that their marriage is nothing but a charade. Ben feels a surge of anger, his fists clenching as he fights the urge to retaliate physically. Sarah steps in, firmly telling the man to leave, making it clear that she wants nothing to do with him. But the man, relishing the drama, continues his taunts, throwing Sarah's past actions in her face and goading Ben with each word. In a moment of clarity, Ben realizes that reacting in anger will only give this man the satisfaction he's looking for. He takes a deep breath, looks the man dead in the eye, and says, "You may have been a part of her past, but you're not a part of our future." With that, he turns away, taking Sarah's hand and walking back toward the cabin, leaving the man standing there, defeated. Back at the cabin, Ben feels a sense of triumph, not because he's won a battle, but because he finally feels free from the anger that has held him captive for so long. Sarah, too, feels a new sense of relief, grateful that Ben chose to rise above the situation instead of letting it tear them apart. That night, they sit by the fire, reflecting on everything that has happened and the journey they've taken to reach this point. For the first time in a long time, Ben feels a genuine sense of hope, a belief that they can truly put the past behind them and start anew. He tells Sarah that he's willing to let go of the hurt, to stop holding her mistakes over her head, and to focus on rebuilding their marriage with a fresh perspective. Sarah, overwhelmed by his forgiveness, promises to honor his trust and to never take him or their family for granted again. They both know that the road ahead won't be easy, but for the first time, they feel united in their commitment to making it work. As they return home, they bring with them a renewed sense of purpose. Their kids notice the change, sensing the warmth and closeness that had been missing for so long. Ben and Sarah resume their lives with a deeper understanding of each other, finding strength in the challenges they've faced and embracing the future they're building together. But the story doesn't end there. The experience leaves a lasting impact on both of them, shaping the way they approach their relationship and their family. They continue to work on their marriage, attending therapy, communicating openly, and supporting each other through life's ups and downs. Looking back, Ben realizes that while the betrayal was devastating, it also forced them to confront issues they'd been ignoring for years. It brought them to the brink, but it also gave them the opportunity to rebuild their relationship with a stronger foundation. A foundation built on honesty, resilience, and a renewed commitment to each other. Their story is a reminder that even the most broken relationships can find healing, but only if both partners are willing to fight for it. It's a journey filled with pain, forgiveness, and growth, a testament to the power of love and the strength of the human heart. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more real-life stories that remind us of the complexities of love and forgiveness. Share your thoughts below. Would you forgive in a situation like this, or would you walk away? Returning from the cabin, Ben and Sarah start to feel like things are falling back into place. The confrontation with Sarah's former affair partner shook them both, but it also reinforced their unity, making them realize just how far they've come. They're determined to leave the past behind and move forward, one day at a time. But despite their newfound commitment, the road isn't smooth. The memories of betrayal still linger, and even as they try to rebuild, moments of doubt creep in. Ben, especially, finds himself haunted by flashes of Sarah's past infidelity, and he struggles to fully open himself up to her again. For Sarah, every day feels like a test, an opportunity to prove herself but also a reminder of her mistakes. One evening, just as they begin to feel a sense of normalcy, an unexpected message arrives. It's from a mutual friend who somehow caught wind of Sarah's affair. The message is well-meaning but misguided. It warns Ben to keep an eye on things and suggests that people are talking. Ben feels his stomach drop, and Sarah, seeing the tension in his face, immediately realizes what's happening. The past, no matter how much they try to bury it, keeps resurfacing, threatening to pull them apart once again. The conversation that follows is one of their most intense. Ben confronts Sarah, asking her if there's anything else she hasn't told him. He's tired of feeling blindsided, of learning new details that add fuel to the lingering anger he's trying so hard to suppress. Sarah, on the other hand, is frustrated and heartbroken. She insists that she's been honest, that there's nothing left for her to hide. But Ben's skepticism is like a wall, keeping her at arm's length no matter how hard she tries to break through. The tension reaches a boiling point when Ben questions if it's worth it to keep fighting. He admits, for the first time, that there are days he wonders if they're better off apart. This admission stuns Sarah, who had been clinging to the hope that they were making real progress. She realizes that despite all their efforts, the foundation of their marriage is still fragile, and one wrong move could shatter everything they've rebuilt. As they sit in silence, each of them grappling with the weight of Ben's words, Sarah finally speaks up. She tells him that she'll keep fighting, even if he's not sure he wants to. She acknowledges that she's the one who caused this pain, and that it's her responsibility to mend what's broken. But she also reminds Ben that healing takes time, and that if they truly want to move forward, they both have to let go of the past. Ben listens, torn between his anger and his desire to believe in her sincerity. He knows that Sarah is trying, that she's done everything she can to regain his trust, but the scars of betrayal run deep. In that moment, he realizes that he has to make a choice, not just for his own peace of mind, but for their family's future. Either he lets go and allows himself to truly forgive, or he walks away and starts over. It's a pivotal moment for both of them, a decision that will define the course of their lives. Ben takes a deep breath, feeling the weight of his emotions. He looks at Sarah, seeing not just the woman who hurt him, but also the partner who has stood by him through their darkest days. In a voice thick with emotion, he tells her that he's willing to try, really try, to let go of the past and build a future together. The relief on Sarah's face is palpable. She nods, understanding that this is a step forward but that there will still be challenges ahead. They embrace, holding each other tightly, and for the first time in months, Ben feels a glimmer of hope that they might actually make it through. In the days that follow, they focus on rebuilding their marriage with a renewed sense of purpose. They go on dates, spend more time as a family, and talk openly about their hopes and fears. Slowly, they begin to feel a closeness that had been missing for so long, a closeness they thought they'd lost forever. One evening, as they're sitting on the porch watching the sunset, Sarah takes Ben's hand and thanks him for giving her another chance. Ben smiles, finally feeling a sense of peace, and tells her that he's grateful for the strength they've found together. It's a moment of quiet reflection, a reminder that despite everything, they're still standing side by side. But as they move forward, they're both acutely aware that trust is a delicate thing, something that must be nurtured and protected. They make a promise to each other to always be honest, to communicate openly, and to never let the distance creep in again. It's a promise born of hard-won wisdom, a commitment that they both know will require constant effort. Their journey isn't over, but they're no longer looking back with regret. Instead, they're focused on the future, on the life they're rebuilding together, and the love that has somehow survived despite the odds. If you've made it this far, thank you for joining us on this journey of redemption and second chances. Don't forget to like, share, and comment with your thoughts below. And of course, subscribe for more stories that capture the complex, beautiful, and often messy reality of relationships. See you next time. After Ben's renewed commitment to rebuild his marriage, things start to feel more stable. He and Sarah are talking openly, sharing moments that feel almost like the early days of their relationship. They begin to laugh more, find comfort in each other, and for the first time in a long time, Ben allows himself to believe that they might truly move past this. But just as they settle into this new rhythm, another unexpected twist shakes their fragile peace. One afternoon, Ben receives a text message from an unknown number with a simple message that reads, "Are you sure she's told you everything?" Attached is a photo of Sarah having dinner with her former affair partner. The image isn't recent, but it's enough to make Ben's heart race with anxiety and doubt. Sarah walks in, noticing the change in Ben's demeanor immediately. She sees the message on his phone and tries to reassure him, explaining that the photo is from before she cut off contact. But the damage is done. Ben feels a surge of anger and betrayal, as if he's been transported back to the moment he first discovered the affair. He can't believe that the past is still haunting them, no matter how much they try to leave it behind. Desperate to salvage the situation, Sarah sits him down and tells him everything in explicit detail, hoping that full transparency will help him let go of his suspicions. She goes over every part of her affair, leaving nothing out. Ben listens, but with each revelation, his heart sinks. Even though he knew about the affair, hearing the specifics brings back all the pain he thought he had managed to bury. This conversation is a turning point for both of them. Ben realizes that, despite all their efforts, he might never be able to fully forgive or forget. He feels like he's been carrying a weight that only grows heavier with each revelation. Sarah, on the other hand, feels a profound sense of guilt and helplessness. She understands that she can't undo the past and that no amount of explanations or apologies will erase the hurt she's caused. For a few days, they barely speak, each lost in their own thoughts, wondering if there's any point in continuing. Ben considers leaving, wondering if it would be better for everyone if he walked away. But at the same time, He can't shake the feeling that giving up now would mean losing everything he's worked so hard to rebuild. Then, one night, while he's out for a walk to clear his mind, he bumps into an old friend, Sam, who recently went through a divorce. Sam invites him to sit down for a drink, and they start talking about life, love, and the struggles of maintaining relationships. Ben shares his story, and Sam listens quietly, offering only a few words here and there. Finally, Sam tells him something that strikes a chord. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing to move forward despite the pain. Those words stick with Ben, and he returns home with a newfound perspective. He realizes that waiting to forget the betrayal is unrealistic. What matters is whether he can choose to move forward despite it. He finds Sarah in the living room, her face a mix of worry and sorrow, and he sits down beside her, taking her hand. He tells her that he's willing to try one more time, but they both need to accept that the scars of the past will always be there. What matters now is how they choose to carry those scars. With this understanding, they both feel a sense of relief and resolve. The path ahead will be challenging, but they're committed to facing it together, not as two people defined by the mistakes of the past, but as partners determined to build something new. They agree to set boundaries, focusing on the present and future instead of revisiting the pain of what's already happened. Their relationship slowly begins to mend, with both of them making an effort to create new memories and deepen their bond. They go on family outings, celebrate small victories, and spend time with their kids, who have noticed the shift and feel more hopeful. Ben and Sarah even rediscover some of the activities they used to enjoy together, like cooking meals on the weekends and taking long drives to the countryside. The final test of their resilience comes unexpectedly. One evening, Ben receives a call from his mother, who has fallen ill and needs assistance. Sarah offers to come with him, but Ben tells her it's something he needs to do alone. Spending time with his mother allows him to reflect on his relationship with Sarah, to see it from a distance. He realizes that life is fragile, and he doesn't want to waste any more time holding on to anger. If he's going to move forward, he needs to do so wholeheartedly without looking back. When he returns, he sits down with Sarah and tells her that he's ready to fully commit, to truly leave the past behind. Sarah, moved to tears, promises that she'll honor his trust and never take their relationship for granted again. They embrace, both of them feeling a sense of closure and a renewed sense of purpose. In the days that follow, Ben and Sarah start making plans for the future. They talk about taking a family vacation, setting new goals, and even considering renewing their vows as a way to celebrate their resilience. For the first time, they feel a sense of peace, a quiet strength that comes from knowing they've weathered the worst together and come out stronger. And so, their story comes full circle, not with a perfect ending, but with a beginning grounded in honesty, forgiveness, and the promise of a better future. They know that challenges will come, but they're ready to face them, not as individuals defined by mistakes, but as partners bound by resilience and love. Thank you for watching this story of redemption, resilience, and the strength of true love. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that explore the complexities of relationships. And remember, forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing to move forward. See you in the next story. In the months that follow Ben and Sarah's reconciliation, their lives gradually settle into a new normal. While things aren't magically perfect, there's a quiet, steady growth in their relationship that speaks to their commitment to each other. They've rebuilt their marriage not from a place of illusion or pretense, but from the honesty and hard truths they've learned to share. The kids notice the change, too. The once tense atmosphere at home has been replaced with warmth, a sense of calm that hadn't been there in years. Ben and Sarah have taken up new routines with the family, starting each week with a family night where they cook dinner together, play board games, or watch a favorite movie. The simple act of being together, without the lingering shadow of distrust, feels like a gift that they cherish more deeply than ever. As time passes, Ben starts to see just how much both he and Sarah have changed. He realizes that forgiving her has allowed him to let go of a lot of the anger he'd carried. Anger that wasn't just about the affair but also about the years of quiet resentment and unspoken disappointments. He's learned the importance of speaking up, of not letting small things fester, and of valuing his own emotional needs in the relationship. Sarah, too, has grown in ways she couldn't have imagined. She no longer takes Ben's love and loyalty for granted, nor does she seek validation outside of their relationship. She's found a sense of fulfillment within herself, something that's made her not only a better partner but also a more present mother and a happier person. She's let go of the restless need for excitement that once drove her to make such hurtful choices, realizing that real happiness is found in the stability and depth of a life built with love and commitment. One day, Sarah suggests they renew their wedding vows. Ben is hesitant at first, worried it might bring up painful memories, but as he considers it, he begins to see it as an opportunity to mark the start of a new chapter. They both agree to keep it simple, a small gathering with their closest friends and family in their backyard, with just their kids and a few close friends by their side. The ceremony is intimate, filled with laughter and tears as they exchange vows that reflect everything they've been through. This time, the words mean something deeper, grounded in the reality of their journey and the strength they've found together. As they say, "I do" once more, both of them feel an overwhelming sense of peace, a quiet joy that feels far more meaningful than any grand, romantic gesture. In the days that follow, Ben finds himself reflecting on the journey they've taken. He realizes that the affair, while painful, forced them both to confront parts of themselves they'd been avoiding. In some strange, unexpected way, it brought them closer to the people they were always meant to be. Their marriage isn't the same as it was before. It's something entirely new, something that has been forged in resilience and honesty. And while the scars are still there, they've learned to wear those scars with pride, as a testament to the love that survived against all odds. Life moves forward, with both of them finding joy in the ordinary moments. Weekend hikes, family dinners, and the quiet comfort of simply being together. Their home, once filled with tension and hurt, is now a place of laughter, warmth, and second chances. As they watch their kids grow, they find solace in knowing that they've shown them what it means to fight for what matters. They've taught them that love isn't always easy, that relationships are complex, and that forgiveness, though difficult, is one of the most powerful gifts we can give. Their story serves as a reminder to their children, and to themselves, that real love endures, not because it's perfect, but because it's chosen day after day. And so, with a renewed sense of purpose and a deepened commitment, Ben and Sarah face the future with open hearts. Their journey isn't over, but they're ready for whatever comes next, knowing that they have each other and that they've built something strong enough to withstand the storms. Thanks for joining us on this story of resilience, forgiveness, and second chances. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that explore the complexities of love, trust, and the power of redemption. See you in the next story.